All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Coyote Radio Show and podcast. We got a great guest today. Littlefoot's with us. Thank you for being on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So recently met you, obviously, at Muddy Roots. Hell of a time. Great performance, by the way. Um, but before that, I've probably only been listening to your music for about a year, I'd say. So, as first time guests, we usually start at the beginning, just kind of give us the idea of where you came from, what your influences were, and how you became Littlefoot, played music.
So, yeah. Um, from like the beginning of the music stuff when I was like first, I think really getting into it, it's like right when I hit the road almost. I was 17 and left home. I had just graduated high school and was like basically working. I was working on a pizza shop, like saving up money to buy a van so I could travel to go to California because I was from the East Coast and that was just like the thing. Just like you want to travel, you just like go to California and surf and skate. That's what I wanted to do. And I ended up meeting these kids that like rode freight trains and stuff and played music and then just traveled and did whatever and ended up like meeting them. This one kid in specific, his name's Ruben, and leaving my hometown with them with like 36 bucks and a ukulele and learned how to just like play music from there. Eventually, I progressed to guitar and banjo and stuff. But I kind of had no choice but to practice every day because that's how I made my money. And then eventually figured I would like try and do something for real with it once I was a little bit more stable in life. And that's long story short, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So you left home with 36 bucks?
I think it was $36. I've remembered a number and I think it was that number. But yeah, I left with like I still had a check coming from that job like the next week that I never got from them, but I had 36 bucks in my pocket and I was like, yeah, I can make this work. I'm pretty sure the actually what Ruben told me was he's like, ah, man, you don't need money to travel. Like you just do this, and this. You play music everywhere you go. And he's like, I tell you what, man, you seem like a cool enough kid. You pack a bag, I'll take you with me. And I was like, okay. And I did, and 3 days later I left.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
It's very adventurous. That's I've never been like, I've hung around with people that have been in that community, but I've never embraced myself in it, been involved. Um, but I always wondered, like if it could have went that way at some point, or
Yeah.
because there's a lot to the hop and train thing. That just seems like fun.
It's equal parts fun and also just like I guess kind of the way that I look at it, like I haven't hop trains for years now, but the way that I look at it now, it's like in like regular like my regular day-to-day life right now, I have like good days and bad days. And I felt like while I was on the road and like riding trains and doing all that stuff, it was like my good days were like really, really fucking good. But my bad days could be like so bad. So like you never really know where you're gonna be, what's gonna happen in a day, and like it could just be so fucking horrible so fast. But
Yeah.
yeah, equal parts fun and just like, oh my god, what is happening?
Can you give us an example?
Um,
Like, what's a really bad day on the?
a really bad day. I mean, like just being on the streets in general, even if you're not traveling as like like a homeless person, if you're just like a homeless person on the streets, like your day is probably not that great. Seeing fights and like violence and stuff like that. And all depending on like what areas you're in and situations that you're gonna put yourself in. I was on drugs for a lot of the time that I was on the road, so like that amplified the bad days by a lot for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Not being able to not being able to get drugs or make money and doing not good things
yeah.
to get that, but I don't do that anymore. So
Well, that's good. Uh, so this time you were basically left home. You were on the road for how many years? Just traveling?
um, it was like 8 on and off, right around 8 years. Um, I would go out for like a year, and then I would kind of come back to the East Coast and try and find some bearings, and eventually just leave again. And it was always like that. I would just kind of go out, come back, not stay for very long, be like, what am I doing? And then I felt like much more comfortable out on the road at some point where I just figured like, especially I think because I started like when I was like 17, it was kind of like the way I knew how to live by the time I was like 20 or 21. And so I just felt a lot more comfortable on the road. But yeah, like on and off, 8 years.
Yeah. And you just built like a catalog of music that and wrote songs and just kind of held on to them until it was time to record.
Yeah, pretty much just that. Yeah, I learned like the first song I ever learned. So I started playing music when I was like 14. I got given a ukulele. But once I hit the road, I learned so like just learned basically like my friends' songs that they were playing and busking at the time. And then my friend Ruben had like taught me some traditional songs. And I almost immediately started writing music. There's a lot of stuff from like really, really early days before I was, writing songs for like to try and like put together an album or something. But there's a lot of songs I wrote when I was like 17, 18 that I don't know if anybody will hear or has heard.
Yeah. Um, what I mean, was that the plan though? That wasn't obviously probably the long game plan to eventually be like, hey, I'm gonna record these and actually kind of be like a traveling musician. I mean, you are in a sense on the street, but you're actually like doing gigs now.
Right. Um, yeah, I'm not at the time. I definitely always have known that I wanted to do something with music. I knew like very early on that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a musician. And I think that that helped me in a lot of ways, like being young, being like 13, 14, and then already just having what I wanted to do in mind. You know what I mean? I didn't need to go out and find myself and figure that out or whatever. But um, I pretty much always like at the beginning, it wasn't like I'm gonna write these so that one day I can record them. It was just I was just in it and just I was just traveling. That was what I was doing. I was writing music basically just to like get shit off my chest and have new songs to be able to busk so I wasn't playing the same, I don't know, 10 songs or
Yeah,
whatever over and over every single day, all day long.
right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, is the name Littlefoot, is that because you have a little foot? Is that where you came from?
I have two little feet. It's not just one.
Oh,
I
okay.
like the
I
I
was
always
wondering.
like this question. I get this question obviously a lot, but there's so many ways it's been asked. Um, and it's I get, are you native? Do you have a little foot? I get what's the other one? Oh man. Oh yeah, from is it from the Land Before Time, the movie with the
Yeah, yeah.
dinosaurs? Like the dinosaur? Like no, I just have little feet. That's another whole story. I was on the road for like maybe 2 weeks in Burlington, Vermont at the time. And that same kid Ruben, who I talked about a lot, he's still like one of my good friends today. He's doing great too. He's settled down, has kids, and you know, he's doing real well. But uh at the time we were traveling in this group that had like quite a bit of people in it, and there was this another kid that had the same government name as me, which was like not a super common name. And so we kept getting our names mixed up, and they had already been picking fun of me because I have little feet. We're like a size 6 shoe. And I was walking. I remember this so vividly because um, in Burlington at this time. Like for some reason they just didn't. There wasn't IDing anybody at the liquor store, and so I was doing a liquor store run for everyone. I was 17, just like going to get booze, and they were calling my name, I guess, because they needed something else or they forgot something or whatever. And I'm walking down the street and they're calling my name and calling my name. And Ruben goes, Littlefoot. And I had finally turned around because I thought they were talking about the other kid. But when he yelled Littlefoot, I turned around and like all of these kids that are sitting in the park just start laughing their asses off and pointing and being like, oh my God, dude, he answered. And everyone was like, that's your fucking name. That is totally your name now. And I was like, no, it's not, dude. Fuck you guys. Like, that's not funny. And it took me like probably like 6 months to just be like, all right,
Just
just
embrace it.
just accept it. And that was like 10 years ago. Almost probably, yeah, probably almost 10 years ago. Or 9.5 years ago, and I have just kept it to this day.
Yeah. I thought maybe when I first heard it, it was something indigenous, but then I think I saw a music video. I think Punk with the Camera had one of your videos. They like cut to your foot. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
actually something about his feet. It's not because.
yeah, yeah. I get it a lot of it all the time. It's one of the biggest questions, which I totally understand. Also, there's a lot of things that people would think, but yeah, no, I just have little feet, and it was a joke for a little while, and I just stuck with it. I kind of couldn't get rid of it, and then eventually it had to embrace it, and now I just like, yeah, it's just like that's my name.
Right. Um, that's a cool story, really. It's funny. The so your music, you mentioned that it, was a good way for you to get it off your chest. Music for me, especially like very therapeutic. Music is, um, even with people I don't think realize it's happening to them sometimes that listen. But so you sing about a lot of tough topics and things that have happened in your life, and I think that's where people connect with you that either been through some sort of trauma or had hard times or whatever, so they feel like they relate to you.
Right.
Um, like half of my family has some sort of drug issue or served time or whatever because of drugs. So it's like to hear the songs that you have, the war with it, and it's just like now you kind of know what they're going through or something. At least for me.
For sure. For sure. I think that it's something that just like at one point I realized um that I like I felt it just like needed to be talked about more. And like during all my sets at some point I like let people know that I'm not just like bitching and moaning. Basically, I want to put these songs out about my own experiences to like let people know that they're not alone in this. Like so many people have gone through this, especially in the scene, in the folk punk scene, the punk scene, like in the music scene in general. It's just a thing. And so to just kind of when I realized like I think this needs to be something that is addressed a little bit more, and then it progressed into me just sharing extremely raw emotions and stories that I've lived through to try and help other people.
Yeah. Yeah, the Muddy Roots performance, I think everyone in that tent was you had tears in their eyes at one point. I
Yeah,
was like,
it's a
damn, man, that was heavy.
it's always a bittersweet thing when
Yeah.
somebody comes up to me after the show and they're like still crying. They're just like, dude, when you hug, it's like it's totally gonna be okay. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's that stuff's still surreal to me. Also to like learning playing bigger shows like that, Muddy Roots, and like last year I did a pretty big Moonrunner set up in Chicago, and then like after realizing like the real impact I have on people and how many people are listening and have been listening, and it's still a surreal thing. It doesn't really feel real to me still when I get those type of reactions to realize like music that I wrote with intentions to try and help people it's is working. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
doing what it was intended to do. It's like, whoa, that's really, really crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hell, that little video clip I shared earlier, like it wasn't just people happened to be there. Like they knew every damn word, every line that you were singing up there, and they were just going right back at it. It was a cool experience. I won't forget that. It was neat.
Heck yeah. That
Uh,
was I definitely will not forget it either. First time. That was my first time even being at that festival. I had never gone before. And then
one of the
playing it.
same kind of acts that Moonrunners in Chicago
Mhm.
do both. Uh, yeah, Muddy Roots is its own animal. Like it's such a crazy festival, all types of music, all walks of life, all coming together, and it's usually no issues. It's pretty sweet.
Mhm.
So, do you have a tour in place right now, or working on one, or
I don't I honestly really don't have I have a little bit of like stuff that I can't really talk about yet, but no tours set up at the moment. I'm working on kind of like doing the beginning plannings of something. I'm gonna probably do the East Coast next. Um, but at the moment, I don't have anything planned. I got home a little bit late from this last tour. Like I said, I was stuck for like 3 weeks extra in Oklahoma, and just got back like a week ago. And my partner just moved in with me on my little piece of land out here, and we're kind of just like doing a bunch of stuff, a bunch of work out here on the property, and that was like my intention all along, is to like get off tour and come out here and do some work. And I feel a little bit behind schedule for sure, but nothing planned for the like immediate future really.
okay?
I'm
What?
thinking I'm hoping for like February-ish, maybe. That's also still kind of rushing things, so I don't want to say anything that's like set in stone. It's like a very big maybe, but like mid-February I would like to be out doing some stuff.
Okay, cool. Um, I'm here in Central Indiana, so if you happen to come through, let me know. We'll
Heck yeah,
see if we can hook up a gig at a joint here that I'm always at or something.
right on. Dude, I wish that we could have I was wondering where you were if you were in Tennessee. I think I had asked you, but I forgot. But this would be, do you do these interviews in person at your, do you have like a little studio there too? I wish that like,
Yeah, yeah, I've done all I've done everything from in the green room on the tailgate in the parking lot to on stage at a venue to these Zoom calls, just wherever we can down and dirty, just make it happen.
got you. Um, Indiana is not far out of reach. I was gonna try and plan. Do you know Joe from Evansville Underground Music up in Evansville, Wisconsin?
I
Have you
don't.
heard of their little spot up there? Well, he's a good friend of mine, and he runs like a little DIY kind of thing. Sometimes he do like puts shows out on his porch, or like he just gets like the local VFW kind of going. But I haven't been up there in a while, and I've been meaning to go up there. And if I end up doing that, I would definitely like to hit like Indiana, Chicago, Wisconsin, kind of Milwaukee areas, and like down to Madison and Evansville. But so I'll definitely hit you up, maybe sooner than later.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I'm working on something like that myself too. I've only lived in this house for going on 2 years, not even 2 years yet.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a barn out here I've been working on. I'm trying to wall off and kind of make like an actual. It would be a bigger studio, but I would actually host some like house shows. That's the
Heck yeah.
plan anyway. But maybe by next summer, I'm hoping.
What part of Indiana is it?
Or central, just about 30 minutes south of Indianapolis.
Cool.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's the scene's not too bad around here. It just depends. I feel like Indiana or Indianapolis gets skipped a lot because it's like, all right, you got this mega hub of like Chicago doing its thing. Well, Indiana's not too far, so they feel like they need to go further. So they'll like skip it and go to Louisville or go to Cincinnati or just like the crossing point. I don't know. Sometimes it works
Yeah,
out good for guys touring, but sometimes we do get skipped for sure.
I have played in Indianapolis before at a DIY venue. I can't remember exactly like what part of like geographically what part of the town it was, but a buddy of mine, Johnny Nas, plays music under Johnny Nas, does DIY stuff out there, and he's based out of Indianapolis, I believe.
Okay. I'll have to look him up. Uh, what about new music? You got anything cooking on that?
I do, and I don't. I for sure, dude. It sucks to say it. I've definitely been slacking. It's hard. It's hard writing for me while I'm out. I I definitely write my best songs, or I'm able to like finish songs because I mean, probably hundreds of songs that are halfway finished, and then
Yeah.
I'll kind of go through them and uh, write a little here, write a little there. But it's hard for me because I have to be very much in the same mindset that I was when I started the song. So if I kind of get to a song that I've been wanting to write, but I don't necessarily feel the way I felt when I started it, it's hard for me to finish. I feel like it's like not authentic.
Yep.
But now that I'm home, I'm able to kind of like sit down and collect myself and hopefully work on a lot of those. I have some new songs probably like that are like finished, maybe like 4 or 5 of them, and I want to have a new record out like I don't know within the year. Um, not like the end
Right.
of this year, like within
The
a
next.
year in all. I want it to be like I want to like really really do good on it though. So I've kind of been taking my time. I felt like the last one I released, I I don't know how to exactly say that. I don't feel like I like half-assed it. I just had written those songs. I didn't spend much time with them before I released them, and some of them I wish I had done better. And so this one I like really want to make sure that I like spend some time with each of the songs after they're fully written and polish everything up a little bit better and like make sure this next album is like really really good, at least by my standards, and then I hope everybody else likes it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Don't want to feel like you're like rushing it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the same way as far as like I don't write much, but I do love that about music. I love lyrical content, so the writing is very important. But as far as being in the mood when I'm doing anything creative, whether it's, I mean, I went to art school, so I do photography, or I got a banjo I play around with. Sometimes I'm just like not in the mood to play. I just don't even
Yeah,
want to pick it up.
I
So,
think that's kind of how I felt too. Like I just finished a tour and was really defeated at everything in my life, and so I just picked it up again a couple days ago, and I hadn't touched my banjo in like a month. I almost felt bad about it. Like didn't feel. It usually feels like a piece of my body when I pick it up, and it felt like I had lost this extra appendage. I don't know. I have to like really the momentum was lost in it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I was
yeah,
using picking it up and playing every single day, and then after like just 1 month, it felt like trying to learn a new language almost. But
yeah, that's strange how that works, but it's true. Um, are the songs you've been sitting on forever? Are they like old, or this like somewhat within the past few years? Because, like you said, you've
uh,
been writing music forever.
yeah, those songs, those are. I have some songs that are like very very old. That will. I've like thought about how maybe I would release them. maybe like one day. I don't want that to be like a tease and that people get excited because that could maybe never happen. They're like really old, and I don't know if I would like. I haven't even played them for probably since I was like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
Um, but I have them. I think maybe on like one of my old phones somewhere, just very crudely recorded. But the new songs that are gonna be on like my next album, whenever that is, are new songs.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your sound. I mean, obviously it's the folk punk thing. There's a lot of people though that don't, I guess, I don't know if I want to use the word underground. It's definitely not as mainstream
Hmm.
to the general public, but it's been something that's been around for a long time. Uh, what kind of influences were you pulling when you were making these songs?
I think that it was really just stuff that I was listening to at the time, and it wasn't anything major. It wasn't anybody big. I grew up on like when I was like a teenager, I was into like the hardcore scene. And then I got into like the they call it generic pop punk, like when I was like 16. So it was like neck deep in the story so far. But I don't necessarily think like obviously my influence comes from that. I think it was like just people I was hearing. I never wanted to like sound like somebody else or be like anybody else. I just kind of wrote music and then it sounded like that. I think the folk punk thing rose out of that. Even in my new songs, a lot of my new songs I don't think like sound very folk punk. I think because I've done the traveling and rode trains and have tattoos on my face and maybe I'm a little bit dirty sometimes that I definitely get pigeonholed and thrown into that folk punk genre. Well, I don't really know what other genre I would be in anyways, but yeah, it was just a lot of my friends from the road that we swap songs and everybody would teach each other songs and it's just a lot of the traveling community, the musical traveling community. That was the influence, especially being like a young kid that already wanted to do music, seeing people that were good at it and like were in bands that traveled and like were houseless. You know what I mean? That didn't. It was so awesome to me to just see people like doing it in a condition where everyone else would be like, "That's impossible." It's like, yeah,
You're like,
how
no,
cool is that?
I can do it. No problem.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I grew up on the same sort of stuff, you know. I hardcore scene, liked a lot of metal music, and I listened to Neck Deep too back in the day.
Heck
Uh,
yeah.
uh, yeah, you have a unique sound, your voice, the style, and everything. I think it's awesome, dude, because that's hard for a lot. There's so much music in the world, and it's really hard to stand out for people. So, I mean, if you put on a song I've never heard you play, I would know instantly who it was, you know. So that you've got this identity that's really cool to hear. So,
I appreciate that. I don't really know how that happened, honestly. Like the influences thing. I think it was just like I didn't even know about folk punk when I was writing music. You know what I mean? So I didn't just listening to other people play on the street. And then eventually I heard of I think literally the first like band I ever heard of was probably like 19 and somebody showed me Days and Days and I was like, this is sick. Um, but I didn't like hadn't like heard any of the music in the scene that I'm in when I was writing my first songs like Hometowns Make Bad Homes, Whiskey and Cigarettes, um any of those songs that are like off that first album. I hadn't really like, yeah, I hadn't really like heard much about that. Eventually I did, and I had like done my research, tried to get a little brushed up or whatever. But towards the end, when I was like actually recording that album, was when I was probably getting into all of that and like learning a lot more about the scene.
Yeah. That's what song were you more like surprised about that people really enjoyed? Like I know that you mentioned just now Whiskey and Cigarettes. That was, you get a lot of streams on that song. And was there another song you thought would people would be more into versus like one of the others or
Oh man. Yeah, I feel like there was one other one. I never thought Whiskey and Cigarettes would be like the one that's most popular, most streamed or whatever, the most well known. I feel like I would have thought it was. Well, let me grab something real quick if I can look at the songs. I was really, really, really proud of how at the end of when I like at the end of writing and like figuring out how the song was gonna be put together, I really was really proud about this will be the last time. And so I thought that one would have probably done the best off that album. And I think that it does well. I've written songs now that kind of like I don't know the exact word, attest. Is it like when something attests to something else? Or it kind of like, oh, I don't know how to say that. But Death or Glory kind of like has like a little ode to that song in it.
yeah.
And now they kind of are like back to back in my set. They go together. But This Will Be the Last Time would probably have been that song that I thought was going to be like the one. And it's Whiskey and Cigarettes, which
Yeah.
is
I think
one
that's
of
the
the.
first one I actually heard by you. And that
Mm-hmm.
probably was, I think it was on a playlist or something, is how I originally found it. I was like, who is this dude? Checked it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was like one of the first songs I had ever written on my ukulele. Like many years ago, I knew three chords. I knew how to play Riptide by Vance, and then all I
Three
wanted
chords
to
and the
write,
truth is all you need.
yeah, wanted to write a song and knew those three chords and that chord pattern. So I wrote literally over Riptide almost, except I do throw in a fourth chord in there. But in the words of Woody Guthrie, right? If you're playing more than three chords, you're just showing off.
Yeah. What about you were showing off some of the hip hop influence on drugs, girls, money, and liquor.
Yeah, yeah, that's a Spose cover. If anybody's heard of Spose, his most famous song that kind of made him blow up. And he's a hip hop artist from Maine, not far from like where I grew up. But one song I was maybe a freshman in high school when it came out. It was "I'm Awesome." So the song's like, "I'm awesome." No, you're not, dude. Don't lie. I'm awesome. I'm driving around in my mom's ride. It was like super duper big. I don't know if it was big everywhere else or just in Maine, but like
Now I'm
my
gonna
friend,
have to go look at it after this and listen to
yeah,
it. I don't know it.
my friend group loved that shit. We loved that shit. And then we ended up getting like really, really into him. Whether it was because he was from Maine or not, I don't know. Maybe I was biased, but I still to this day think his music's awesome, obviously, because I cover it. But yeah, I remember like I met him at like a I like heard from my buddy, he's like, dude, I suppose this is supposed to be like at this Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or something. We should totally go see if he's there. And then we did, and he was there, and little kid me fangirled for the first time. I was like, dude, your music's so awesome. I play it all the time, man. But yeah, I picked that one out because it's still one I listen to now, like 10, 11 years later. And I had remembered that it was the same chords as Say It Ain't So by Weezer. That's like the sample that he has for that song. And so I was like, kind of just like figured it out on my banjo real quick and then sang it to myself. And it was like, I think this is what it sounds like. And I listened to the song that I haven't heard for like years. And it was like, okay, cool. And actually, this is really embarrassing, but
These are the best stories, man. Send out the embarrassing ones.
I hadn't heard that song in so long and just kind of like relearned it from my memory and recorded it and put it on an album and then released the album. And then I finally went back just to like, for some reason, to listen to the song, the full song. And I messed up the entire last verse. Like, it is not any, it was like I took the last verse, and just made it into a mashup of my own, and that's not the song. So
You should
yeah,
tell everyone that was on purpose. It was like a creative choice that you.
I almost didn't. Okay, I was like, I thought about how it could like, how do I get out of this one, right? Because if anybody goes and listens to the real song, they're gonna be like, what the fuck, what is this? So should I just be like, yeah, I did it on purpose, or should I be like, I totally fucked up, and I'm just, yeah, no, I totally fucked it up. It was totally an accident. I did not mean to botch that song that bad.
Oh shit!
But yeah, that's a thing.
You'll run into him one day. Like, what the hell, man?
I now when I'm on stage too, I do that like the last verse the way that it's supposed to be, and so you'll hear everybody singing up until that point because that's the part that they know is the wrong part, and then I sing the right part, and then everybody gets really quiet. I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah, every time.
That's
They're like,
awesome.
this wasn't on the song that I heard. Nope, it definitely was not.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really have a favorite. I usually I listen to so many different types of music, and it's usually I get just a giant playlist of like 10,000 songs going. But
Mm-hmm.
when I'm like trying to dive into an individual artist, I just kind of pick one album and start at number one, not shuffle, and listen to it like you're supposed to usually, depending on the artist, what their concept might be. But
Right.
so I just kind of that's what I was doing with yours, just trying to because I knew eventually you said you'd be willing to be on the show, so I wanted to dive in even deeper and just kind of analyze it all. But I can't really come up with like a all-time favorite. It depends on my mood, like what some of these lines are like super catchy as shit. Like I just showed my
Right.
brother um your music this week, and he didn't grow up on a lot of the same shit that I did because there's an age gap a little bit. But uh, he's like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "His name's Littlefoot," and he's like, "Oh, dude, this guy's awesome."
Heck yeah, man.
But I don't know, whiskey and cigarettes. That song is pretty sweet and fun to like sing along to. You definitely
Mm-hmm.
have that pop vibe of what you were talking about, uh, pop punk vibe, where you just want to sing along with it
Right. I
on
think
some of
that's
them.
cool. And I never on my I never like intended for that. I never like wrote a song and was like, okay, I'm gonna make this really simple so that everybody can remember it really easy, or like have like in pop punk they have a lot of like group chant vocals or like stuff like that. It just
Yeah,
happened. I don't know. So I definitely was influenced by the music I was listening to around me at the time. Just hard to. I never picked one person out, you know, or like a couple people. I wasn't like, I want to like make it sound more like this or like this. Actually, there's one song I did that, and it's Risk and Reward. I was listening to a lot of Harley Poe, and I wanted to. I very intentionally wrote a song that didn't use the word I. It wasn't about me. Um, I tried to like write more of a story, and kind of make it like more spooky, I guess. But it probably didn't come out as spooky as Harley Poe. Actually, it definitely did not. But Whiskey and Roll was the one song where I was like, I want to write a song that is more like this person, and so I did that.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that now. That uh, one that's heavier as far as subject matter, lyrical content, and all that is "I Am the Reason." That song is killer, man. Like I don't know how anyone, as far as like being a storyteller, or how anyone just listen to that song and just like dive all the like be all the way committed. Like, what's he gonna say next? Like, it was just
Hmm.
it was tough to listen to, obviously, uh, but that one really hits. I think that's a really well written song, honest song. I think that's a big deal, for people just being honest is that's tough for people to do when you put it in the public. It's one thing to just like play it for a friend or something, but to just give this song to the entire public to analyze and listen, that's hard to do.
Yeah, I never appreciate that. With songs like that, there was never a point where I felt like I needed to keep this to myself, kind of thing. Um, it was always like to get it off my chest and to be able to play it. Like when I talk about maybe never playing my really, really old songs, like my really old songs, it's not that I don't want people to hear it. It's just like not something that I guess, like as proud of or something. It doesn't, a lot of it just doesn't really make sense. It's not something that has a point to it. It's just little kid me being like angry at the world. But with these kind of songs, there's nothing that I ever intended on like holding back, because it was me, and I was being just completely honest, like to myself in a lot of situations too, and that helped me be a better person in the end, because was with that song in particular, I am the reason. I very much was not a good person to the person that I was writing about in that song, and that like a lot of that like wasn't okay, and it wasn't. I don't know. Wasn't like trying to be like, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's just like more of like a hey, I'm like growing up and I've realized that I did like really wrong. So I
Yeah,
hope it's one of those kind of things. That's a hard one to explain. There's a lot going on in that song. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think part of that too is like, well, obviously, you're calling you're the reason for all this crazy stuff that happened to this other person. And you kind of like almost beat yourself up a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, well, a lot of times when I feel like when people are on drugs, like fully addicted, it's like not really who they are. So
Hmm.
you can't really beat yourself up too bad because like you're like someone else in those moments. Like it's just an out of body. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain that, but um, it's just wild.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And the thing is just being able to at least take accountability for it. Even so, you know what I mean? Not diminishing it, or not trying to push it to the side, or say I did this because I was on drugs or something like that. It's
Right.
like, yeah, we all know that like you're definitely not yourself, for sure. That is 100%. But in the end, when it's all said and done, that whatever happened, whatever it may be, that might have been a bad thing or a good thing, like all those things still definitely happened, and this is real life, and people have to take accountability. So that was kind
Yeah.
of like what that was.
Yeah. Huh. Um, what's another song that really? Oh, Where'd you learn French, by the way?
Where did I learn French? I spent a lot of time in Canada.
Oh, yeah, French Canadian.
Yeah. I actually, at one point in my life, believe it or not, I could understand a lot of the Quebecois, the Quebec French, because I had spent like almost a year in Montreal when I was traveling, and I couldn't speak it very well. But if I sat in a group of people that were having a conversation, I could like pick out enough to know what everybody was talking about and talk to them in English. But my French is definitely shit. I know you're talking about Au revoir, the song,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was the funny part about that song in particular, or I guess like a little bit of backstory is my partner that I was with at the time, we had had that conversation about like talking different languages, and I told them about that, and then we started using this like I think it was called Duolingo, like an app that will help you speak a different language, and so we started using that together a lot, like every single day, and learning French together again. And then I wrote that song with a lot of French words in it for her.
I love that song. That's another fun one to listen to.
It's a short one. I had a part two for that song too for a while, and I lost it completely. I'm still looking for it to this day.
What, just in like an empty notebook or a notebook full of song? Like, where? What do you mean lose it?
Could be, yeah, it could be. I remember I definitely wrote it because I thought the song was too short, and so I wanted it to be longer and be like a part two. But if you played them both together, it would make one song. Um, but I have no idea. It could be on a loose piece of paper. It could be in one of my notebooks. I just have not been able to find it. I've been finding a lot of like after I've been cleaning my trailer and some of the other buildings or and stuff like the Adobe on my property and finding some different stuff. So hopefully it's somewhere in one of my boxes
Yeah. Hopefully, it
or
just
not eaten
shows up.
by
I
eaten by
took
all.
French in high school, but I don't remember anything.
No. Did you do like all 4 years or just 1 year?
I think it was 2 semesters or something. I don't remember. They made you pick. It was either that or Spanish, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I went
Back
with.
up and turn this light on real quick because it's starting to get dark.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what, did a cloud come over?
Can you see me a little better?
Yeah,
All right, cool.
it was like
No, it's just
super
starting to.
sunny out, and then all of a sudden it was not.
It is. It's probably I think 9 where you are. It's 6:08 out here in Arizona. And it's just this. That's the sun is setting, so it's just starting to get dark out.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So I did the whole French thing. The only reason I went is just because that's where my girlfriend was in that class. So I I
Hmm.
copied off her papers. She's now my wife, so it worked out.
Right on. High school sweethearts.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Very
man,
cool.
what else should we talk about? Is there stuff I'm missing here, or you got a big chunk out there of something that I just don't know about that I should be asking?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's a couple things, and I well, maybe I won't even say that. No, I have to. There's just like there's a couple things that I want to be able to talk about, but it's not close enough to like when it's actually happening right now. But well, actually, I could if I say something and then I talk to some other people and they're like, maybe you shouldn't say that on a podcast or whatever, then we can like not have it on.
Yeah,
Okay, it's not
like I
like a
can
super
even
big.
cut this little part out of us talking about it.
Sure, yeah, just so people aren't like teased about it or whatever, because that would fucking piss me off. But it's not like a huge thing, but for the first time, I'm gonna be doing some vinyl releases,
Oh, thank God.
and yeah, it's gonna be of my first album, the "What Did You Expect" one, because I think that was there's the first one that kind of took off, and I'm really proud of it. But yeah, Brandon from Punk with a Camera reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing that, and I was like, hell yeah. And I wanted to make sure that my buddy Luke with Folk Punk Archivist Records was a part of it too, and like had to say because been the one to like help me from day one, like that reached out to me um literally from day one and was like, hey, I heard like your like a video of you playing on Reddit. Do you have music? Why do you not have an album and stuff? And eventually he released my album for me and has done just everything, all the cool behind the scenes stuff that I have no idea how to do. He's done and he's been great. And so we're doing a little collaboration release of that first album on vinyl. And I think I'm really excited about that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that
I
going to
just
be
don't
it?
know. I just don't know if I'm allowed to like or I know I'm allowed to. I just don't know if I should right now because it's not even like I think it's still probably like 7 or 8 weeks out until that's a thing. Because I kind of want to maybe wait until it's posted about, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
But maybe this will stay in the podcast. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, if it's on here, pre-sales are in the description. Yeah.
Cool. There you go. Yeah, that works.
Are you
But
would it be limited number run copies to start with, or
I think the first one, but I don't know exactly how many right now. I'd have to just like I just have to ask about it. Um, with the stuff I am, it's all done just like within my friend group. Basically, I'm pretty hands off when it comes to this stuff, which is good because I don't know really how to do any of this stuff. But um, there's like it's not like I think I had a vinyl out that was like a one track on each side.
hmm, like a
Um,
sneak?
that there was like 20 of them ever made. It's not going to be like that limited. It's not going to be something like that.
Yeah. Well, girl,
Um,
save me a
but
copy.
and I'm very excited about it.
That's great, man.
I can definitely send you a copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't really think I'm just kind of chilling, man. I'm chilling, not really doing a whole lot, just drinking and stinking and working on this property, working on all the stuff that needs to get done before I think about leaving again.
Yep. Uh, is there a spot in social media wise that people should follow you on?
Instagram or Facebook. I don't really do anything else besides that, but Instagram is what I use the most, and
Yeah,
it's
me too.
uh, Littlefoot and Kirito, and the N is just an N, so it's LittleFootNKiRito. That's me and my dog, but yeah. And then Facebook's just Littlefoot. I
Okay.
also have a YouTube. I can send you those links too if you want. That's just under Littlefoot. I haven't uploaded to that in a while, but there are some videos of me on there, like singing live versions of some of my songs.
Yeah. You have a website?
Not yet. I don't have a website yet. That is something that I am also working on very slowly, but I think that I'm gonna try and do that very soon because I want to make one of those link tree things where you just click
Yeah.
on it and things like right there. Because I need my Bandcamp and Spotify and all that stuff linked to it. Um, I was actually hoping I was gonna get that done earlier today, but I was in town for a little bit too long. Because I have like leftover tour merch that I was gonna put up for stuff like that, but
Yeah. I need
not
to do
yet.
that myself. I need to do the whole link tree.
Yeah, it's it. Every time I see somebody's page and they have one, I'm like, oh my God, this is like such a fucking good idea. Then you click on it and everything's right there. It's almost like
Yeah,
this is not sponsored by Linktree, by the way.
it can be if they send us some money.
There you go.
Yep. All right, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you being on, and I'm a fan, and I support your music, and I'll definitely share it on this show for
Cool.
sure.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, keep in touch and I'll hit you up if I end up in Indiana soon.
Yeah. Yeah.